On the night I turned 18, I committed an act of hopeful treason. I stole a kiss from the man who had raised me, my uncle in every way but blood. He recoiled, wiping his face with a look of sheer disgust. Even if you were the last woman on earth, Leah, he declared, his voice cutting and cold, I would never love you. I told myself he was just in shock, unable to process it. Then came the car crash. The doctor gave him an impossible choice. 2 bodies, 1 operating table. Only one could be saved. Without a moment's hesitation, Caleb Thorne swept the other woman into his arms and sprinted toward the surgical suite, leaving me to my fate. In that moment my heart finally died. So I married my best friend's uncle. And that was when Caleb went insane. I awoke to the rhythmic beeping of machines in the ICU. Before my vision even cleared, a young nurse beside me gasped in delight. Oh my goodness, it's a miracle. You're awake, she exclaimed. I have to tell Mr. Thorne right now. She scurried out of the room before I could form a word. The Mr. Thorne she spoke of was Caleb, my uncle. We shared no blood. He had been my older brother's best friend. When I was 8, my parents and brother were killed in a car accident, leaving me an orphan at the mercy of a cruel world. It was Caleb who rescued me from the cold walls of the orphanage, vowing to protect me forever, to never let anyone hurt me again. I moved into his home and, like the younger members of his family, I called him Uncle. I shouldn't have survived then, just as I shouldn't have survived this latest crash. The specialist Caleb had flown in could only operate on one of us, leaving the other to the whims of chance. He chose Sophia Rain. He chose her without hesitation, running with her in his arms while I was left to bleed out in the wreckage of my own hope. I lay in that hospital bed for 7 days and 7 nights. Caleb never came to see me. Not once. My heart, which had stubbornly held on for so long, finally shattered. I checked myself out of the hospital and called my best friend Chloe. Chloe, I said, my voice steady. I'll do it. I'll marry your uncle. She was ecstatic, telling me the wedding would be held in the city of Ethelgard in 10 days. When I returned to the sprawling, empty villa, the first thing I saw was the new portrait hanging in the foyer. It was an engagement photo of Caleb and Sophia, locked in a tender, intimate embrace. My eyes burned, a familiar ache tightening in my chest. There was a time when that gentle, all-consuming affection had been reserved for me alone. In the years after he took me in, Caleb's devotion was absolute. At 8, I was diagnosed with severe depression, a silent, gray abyss from which only he could coax me. He put his own university studies on hold for 2 years, his final exams forgotten, to sit by my side day and night, patiently pulling me back into the light. Leah, he'd whispered, his voice a lifeline. There are people who love you in this world. I will always be with you. I will always love you. At 12, I was bullied relentlessly at school, taunted for being an orphan, a jinx who had cursed her own parents. Caleb stormed into the school and beat the boys responsible so badly they were hospitalized. To the world he was a cold, formidable man, but to me, his words were the gentlest balm. Don't be afraid, Leah. I would walk through fire for you. At 14, I was caught in an earthquake during a school trip. The moment he heard the news, Caleb defied his family's pleas and rushed to the disaster zone alone. After locating my position under the rubble, he dug with his bare hands. For hours, pulling my near-lifeless body from the wreckage. As aftershocks trembled through the ground, he held me tight, his own body shaking with fear, and sobbed that he couldn't lose me, that I was the most precious gift in his world. Watching him, his face streaked with tears and dust, my heart began to pound with a force I'd never known. How could I not fall in love with a hero who descended from the heavens to save me? That love grew like a wildfire, fierce and uncontrollable. Until my 18th birthday, when I found him asleep on the sofa and dared to kiss him. There was no delight in his eyes, only a horrified disbelief, as if I had committed an unforgivable sin. We may not be related by blood, Leah, but I raised you, he said, his voice strained. I am your uncle. You can love anyone in this world, but you cannot love me. The dam had broken. I confessed everything. We're not related, and you're only 8 years older than me. I'm an adult now, why can't we be together? His eyes were filled with a deep, desperate sorrow. Leah, I don't love you, he said, the words tearing from him. Even if you were the last woman on earth, I would never love you. I couldn't understand his anguish then. I thought he just needed time. But from that day on, he became a stranger. The man who never touched alcohol began to come home drunk in the dead of night. He ignored my calls, left my messages unread, and his presence in the villa dwindled to almost nothing. I convinced myself it was a test, and for 4 years I carefully nurtured that initial spark of love. Until a few months ago when he brought her home. Sophia Rain. I watched from the crack in my doorway as they kissed passionately on the staircase, lost in their own world. Tears streamed down my face. I couldn't believe it. He'd never shown a woman such intimacy, let alone brought one home. I confronted him, my voice a hysterical cry. Why? For 4 years, I've written you 999 love letters. Just one more and it would have been 1,000. Why couldn't you wait for me? Don't you believe me after all this time? Don't you know it wasn't some childish crush? I graduate in a few days, why couldn't you just wait? What do I have to do to make you love me? His face was a cold, impassive mask, just as it had been for the past 4 years. I never said I was waiting for you, he replied. You could write 10,000 letters and I still wouldn't love you. He turned and walked away, leaving me to collapse on the stairs, my heart tearing apart with each sob. I finally understood. He would only ever be my uncle. And in that moment I let him go. The sound of the front door opening pulled me from my reverie. Caleb and Sophia walked in hand. Seeing me, he seemed to finally remember that I had just returned from the brink of death. Leah, he began awkwardly. How are your injuries? Are you all healed? I looked at the man who was both a stranger and the center of my world for so long. You don't need to worry, uncle, I said, my voice flat. I'm fine. I went upstairs and began to pack. There wasn't much. I had already sold the gifts he'd given me over the years, along with my parents' old house. The money was on a debit card, my final repayment for his years of care. A knock came at the door. It was Sophia. She took my hand with a warm, gentle smile and invited me downstairs for dinner. The table was laden with food. Fish, shrimp, peanuts, yams. Every single dish was something I was severely allergic to. I put down my chopsticks. Uncle, I'm not hungry. You two go ahead. Sophia clutched Caleb's arm. Her voice a wounded whisper. Caleb, darling, does Leah not like me? She won't even touch the food I made for her. Caleb's face hardened into that familiar cold mask. Don't waste Sophia's kindness. Eat. I opened my mouth to protest, but his icy glare stopped me. Sophia is my fiancée. She just recovered from a serious illness herself, yet she cooked all this for you. Is this how you treat an elder's goodwill? You will not leave this table until you've finished your plate. My allergies were severe. Caleb, the man who once cooked all my meals himself to ensure my safety, who knew my dietary restrictions by heart, was now willing to risk my life to appease his new love. It wasn't the first time he'd chosen her. Under their watchful eyes, I forced down the food. Within minutes, my throat began to close. I grabbed Caleb's hand, gasping for air, unable to speak. Sophia acted as if she couldn't see my distress. She gently pried my fingers from Caleb's arm and pouted. Caleb, you promised you'd take me on the roller coaster as soon as I was out of the hospital. You can't go back on your word. Caleb glanced at me, then said, I promised Sophia. I'll have the driver take you to the hospital in a little while. They left. I waited and waited, but the driver never came. Racked with stomach cramps, my face ashen, I collapsed onto the floor. After I was rushed to the hospital by ambulance, I received a text from Sophia. It was a photo of her and Caleb, nestled together on a roller coaster, smiling blissfully. The message read, Leah, the ride was so thrilling. Too bad you weren't feeling well. We'll have to go together next time. Scrolling up, I saw a gallery of their happiness. Photos of their hands intertwined, videos of them walking on the beach, a clip of them playfully wrestling. At home before tumbling onto the bed. These images used to send shards of pain through my heart. Now I felt nothing. It was just family. And I was leaving. I replied, have a wonderful time, adding 3 smiling emojis before closing the chat. A few days later, my university charity group reminded me of one final event. Our mission was to help children in impoverished mountain regions. I chose to work as a food delivery driver, earning money to buy them a set of world encyclopedias. Near the end of a long day, I got a large order for a birthday cake to a remote villa. The thought of the children spurred me on. When I arrived, the villa was painfully familiar. Sure enough, Sophia emerged, the very picture of the lady of the house. She wore a dress of thin, translucent silk, and I could see the faint red marks of kisses on her neck. Even though I had decided to stop loving him, the sight still stung. I clenched my fists, taking a deep breath to steady myself. As I lifted the cake to hand it to her, someone tripped me. I went down hard, the cake splattering on the ground at Sophia's feet. A desperate shame washed over me. I didn't want her to see me like this, sprawled on the ground, my face smeared with frosting. I pulled on my face mask. Sophia and her friends were furious. They accused me of ruining her birthday on purpose, a terrible omen. They demanded not only an apology but that I eat every last bit of the spoiled cake from the ground. In the middle of the standoff, a cool voice cut through the air. "What's taking so long?" Sophia immediately melted against Caleb, her voice a choked sob. "Caleb, it's my birthday and she ruined my cake. I just asked her to eat it and apologize. That's not too much to ask, is it?" He glanced at me on the ground, his gaze lingering for only a second. "No, it's not," he said coldly. "Do as she says." He led Sophia away, but not before she shot me a triumphant, mocking smirk. Her friends stayed behind to supervise. "You should be grateful, you beggar," one of them sneered. "You've probably never even seen a cake this expensive. Yeah, look at her, all sweaty and gross. She probably did it on purpose just to get a meal. Well, you got your wish. Now eat. You're not leaving until it's gone." Numbly, I began to eat the cake. He knew. He knew I was deathly allergic to cream, that it would make me violently ill. But maybe, I thought desperately, maybe he didn't recognize me. Soon my stomach was heaving. I threw up again and again until I was retching bile. Sophia reappeared, looking down at me with contempt. "Forget about her," she announced to her friends. "Caleb ordered me a new one. He said we shouldn't let irrelevant people spoil my mood." They left, their laughter echoing behind them. I dragged myself to the hospital. When I came to, the doctor was frowning at me. "You again, young lady? Can you please stop destroying your own body?" I just smiled bitterly. A doctor I'd met a handful of times showed more concern for me than the man who had raised me for over a decade. The line between love and indifference was brutally clear. When I returned to the villa, Caleb was waiting, his eyes like chips of ice. "Why are you delivering food?" he demanded before I could even speak. "Is the money I give you not enough? Is it so hard for you to get along with Sophia? How long are you going to keep this up? I've told you, drop these pathetic schemes. I don't love you." He had recognized me, and he had chosen to let them humiliate me. Any explanation died on my lips. In his eyes, I would always be the troublesome, attention-seeking child who embarrassed him. His patience was gone, replaced by pure disgust. I lowered my head to hide my tears. "I understand, Uncle," I said, my voice quiet and obedient. "It won't happen again. In 5 more days, I won't bother you ever again." "What 5 days?" he snapped. "What are you planning now?" I wiped my eyes and looked at him. "In 5 days, I will." My words were cut off by his ringtone. The screen read Sophia. His cold expression instantly melted into a warm smile. He answered the phone, grabbing his suit jacket as he walked out the door. "I'm leaving for Ethelgard to get married. Uncle, will you come to wish me well?" The words remained unspoken. "Caleb, when I'm gone, will you feel even a flicker of sadness? Will you regret any of this?" Later, Chloe called to discuss wedding plans and show me sketches of the dress. I gave her my measurements, telling her to defer to her uncle on all other matters. Just then, Caleb, having returned for something he'd forgotten, overheard my conversation. "What wedding? What uncle?" I looked at him. Since he no longer considered me family, there was no need to disturb his life further. "A classmate's uncle is getting married," I lied smoothly. "I was invited." He frowned but didn't press. His heart was with Sophia. He had no time for me. The slightest bit of attention would have unraveled my lie, but he didn't care enough to look. "Tomorrow is the company's anniversary gala," he said dismissively. "I'm taking you and Sophia. Here's the dress. Sophia picked it out for you." It was a plain, unremarkable white dress. "Thank you, Sophia," I said. He froze, looking at me strangely. I had never willingly spoken her name before. He seemed about to say something, but in the end he just shook his head. "Oh, Uncle," I added. "I need to get my ID and passport from your study." He was staring at his phone, lost in thought. "Okay," he mumbled. Upstairs, while searching for my documents, I found them. The 999 letters I had written him. As I leafed through them, I saw his handwriting on one. It looked like a single elegant word. Yes. Just as I leaned in for a closer look, he stormed in. What are you doing? Who said you could go through my things? He roared, snatching the letters and locking them away. A flicker of confusion stirred in me. Since you have someone you love now, I ventured. Can I have those letters back? No, he snapped, then quickly added. Sophia's letters are in there too. Why would I give them to you? She'll be here soon, you should leave. I smiled bitterly. Of course. What was I even hoping for? The yes was for her. The next night at the gala, I trailed behind Caleb and the exquisitely dressed Sophia. The atmosphere buzzed with his arrival. The MC, feeling bold, suggested. All the couples on stage share a kiss. Sophia blushed, looking up at Caleb with adoration. He smiled, and to the cheers of the crowd, he kissed her deeply. My eyes stung. I had resolved to let go, but the heart is a wild beast, not easily tamed. If only it were as simple as deciding not to love. I slipped away, finding myself by a moonlit swimming pool. The shimmering water calmed my racing thoughts. It's hard to watch, isn't it? I turned. It was Sophia. Caleb told me everything, she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. About your feelings for him. Honestly, it's understandable. You're just a young girl, and he's an exceptional man. She smiled, but her eyes were full of malice. But it's also not normal, is it? What kind of normal person falls in love with her own uncle? He had told her everything. He hadn't just rejected me. He had offered up my most vulnerable secret for her amusement. I had already decided to wish them well, to leave them in peace. Why did he have to trample on my dignity like this? I'm marrying into the family soon, she continued, her tone shifting to one of triumphant ownership. The thought of living with someone who is constantly lusting after my husband is unsettling. You're an adult now, Leah. It's time you left Caleb and other people's husbands alone. Don't you agree? The blood drained from my face. Don't worry, I finally managed, my voice hoarse. In 3 days I'll be gone. My surrender didn't appease her. You'd better be, she sniffed. Caleb loves me so much, and I'd hate for things to get ugly. Before she could finish, 2 children ran past, roughhousing. An arm swung out, and with a loud splash, Sophia was in the pool. A sharp stinging pain shot through my hand. I looked down. A long red gash, likely from one of the kids' toys, was bleeding freely. As I winced, a figure shot past me and dove into the water. Caleb. He pulled a shivering Sophia from the pool, wrapping his jacket around her. What happened? He demanded, his brow furrowed with concern. Caleb, she whimpered. I don't know what I said to upset Leah, but she just pushed me in. It's okay, we're family. Don't be angry with her. I was about to explain when Caleb's furious gaze landed on me. Have I spoiled you so much that you've become this lawless? Uncle, I didn't push her. Apologize to Sophia. Now. You can take back your love, your care, your concern. But I was the child you raised. How could you not have a single shred of trust left for me? Uncle, please believe me. I choked out, tears blurring my vision. You know what kind of person I am. I didn't do it. Ever since you turned 18, he said, his voice laced with venom. I don't know you at all. When you do something wrong, you apologize. Otherwise, people will think you have no upbringing. The world shattered. No upbringing. He knew that was the one thing I couldn't bear to hear, the deepest wound from my parents' death, and he had just used it as a weapon against me. I stared at the blood dripping from my hand, feeling nothing. I was wrong, I said, my voice dead. My heart was ash. If we couldn't even be family, trust didn't matter anymore. He heard the words he wanted and left, carrying Sophia away. I let the medic stitch up my hand, feeling as if the needle were passing through someone else's skin. I had planned to cook him one last meal to say a proper goodbye, but there was no point now. An unannounced departure was a kind of farewell too. Before I left for the airport, I called him one last time. After a long pause, Sophia's sultry voice answered. Your uncle is in the shower. We're catching a flight to Paris for Fashion Week. Whatever it is, it can wait until we're back. I listened to the dial tone, then closed the door on the life I had known and boarded a flight to Ethelgard. Chloe met me at the airport. She knew everything. She held me as I finally broke down. Leah, don't worry, she whispered, her own tears falling. Even though I'm your family by marriage now, I'll always be your family by heart. We cried until we laughed, a strange cathartic release. In that moment I felt warm again. Today was the day I would marry Alistair Liu. I rose early, applied a touch of makeup, and put on the elegant cheongsam he had sent over. We still hadn't met. The Liu clan was an ancient and powerful family, a pillar of Ethelgard for over a century, with rumored ties to royalty. Alistair was their current patriarch, and family tradition dictated he must marry before formally assuming the title. Thus our union was arranged. When Chloe and I went downstairs, he was already waiting on the sofa. He was exactly as Chloe had described him, a gentleman with the calm, refined air of polished jade. There was none of the intimidating aura I expected from a man in his position. He stood and extended a hand to me. As I hesitated, Chloe placed my hand in his. He led me to the car, his touch gentle but firm. Sensing my nervousness, he handed me a small plush white rabbit. "Squeeze this," he said, his voice a low, calming timbre. "It helps." I looked at him, then at the rabbit, and a laugh escaped me. A sweet warmth spread through my chest. Maybe I had made the right choice. After we registered our marriage, I was still in a daze. Alistair held my hand and directed the driver to a high-end jewelry boutique. He had the staff bring out every ring they had. After careful consideration, he chose a band about 2 inches wide. He slid it onto the ring finger of my left hand, the one with 5 fresh stitches. The brilliant diamonds on the ring completely obscured the ugly mottled scar. My heart trembled and tears I had held back for so long finally fell. The difference was so stark it was painful. Caleb couldn't see the blood dripping from my hand, but Alistair saw the scar I tried so desperately to hide. He gently wiped my tears away. "No regrets," he said softly. "Tomorrow, you will be the most beautiful bride." Meanwhile, in another city, Caleb returned home from a business trip. He found my room empty, save for a bank card and a note on the desk. "Goodbye, Uncle. I hope we never meet again." A sharp, inexplicable pain seized his heart. He crumpled the note and frantically called my phone. It rang and rang. Finally I answered. "Leah, where are you? What is this nonsense? I brought you a gift. Come home." After a long silence I replied calmly, "Uncle, that is your home. I can't go back. I have my own home now." I hung up and blocked his number. He called my friends, my school, everyone he could think of. No one knew where I was. Until the news of my lavish wedding to Alistair Liu broke. He saw the headlines, saw me in another man's arms. He coughed up a mouthful of blood and collapsed. He woke up in a hospital bed, ripped out his and drove to Ethelgard. He waited outside our gate for a full day. Alistair watched him from an upstairs window before turning to me. "Leah, you have a visitor." He wrapped his arms around me from behind, his voice tinged with a possessiveness I was starting to understand. "I wish I had been the one to raise you," he murmured against my hair. "Go. Some things are better said and done." I walked downstairs on Alistair's arm. Caleb looked like a ghost. His face was gaunt, his hair a mess, his clothes reeking of stale smoke. He took a shaky step forward. "Stop this, Leah. Come home with me." I looked at the man who had promised me the world and then abandoned me time and again. I thought seeing him so broken would hurt, but it didn't. My life had already begun anew. "Mr. Thorne," I said calmly, "I believe I've made myself clear. That is your home, not mine. And let me introduce you. This is my husband, Alistair Liu." Caleb's head snapped toward Alistair. He lunged, punching him hard in the jaw. "You bastard, Alistair. You took advantage of my absence and tricked her," he roared. "By seniority, she should call you uncle too. How could you do this, you animal?" Alistair, wiping a smear of blood from his lip, hit him back just as hard. "You're the animal. I was supposed to be the one to take her in, but you insisted. You promised us you'd take care of her, that you'd treat her well for the rest of her life, and you threw her away for a lying, manipulative woman." Caleb simply took the blows, not fighting back. Alistair straightened his cuffs, his voice ringing with authority. "Besides, Leah and I share no blood. We love each other. Why shouldn't we be together?" At those words, Caleb's eyes went wide, then lost focus. He crumpled to the ground like a discarded puppet. Alistair had him thrown out. I couldn't understand it. He had pushed me away. I had left just as he wanted. Why was he here now, a desperate, broken man? Just then, Chloe rushed in, throwing her phone on the sofa. "That witch Sophia. She leaked all the letters you wrote to Caleb." adding her own twisted story about you having an incestuous obsession with your uncle. Of course, it had to be her. But why? Leah, you don't know, Chloe said, a smirk on her face. Caleb has been going crazy looking for you, completely ignoring her. This was her pathetic attempt at revenge. They both deserve each other. Alistair gave a quiet order to his secretary. Soon the narrative online shifted. A new story emerged. Alistair and I had been in a long-distance relationship for years, our love letters a testament to our devotion. Uncle was merely an intimate nickname. The public swooned, and our wedding became a fairy tale romance. I wrapped my arms around Alistair from behind. Thank you, I whispered. He turned and held me close. I wish the story were true, he said softly. I wish I had met you years ago, so you never would have had to suffer. I thought the storm was over, but Caleb came back. He fought the guards at the gate, a man possessed, determined to see me. Leah, I have to talk to you. I'm not leaving until I see you. I sighed. It was time to end this. He rushed to me, his eyes wild with a desperate joy. Leah, divorce him. I know you only married him to spite me. You don't love him. Leave him. And we can get married. I know I was wrong, I admit everything. Just give me a chance to make it right. I love you, Leah. I can't lose you. I had waited years to hear those words. Once they would have been my salvation. Now they were just noise. I pulled my hand from his grasp. It's too late, Caleb. I don't love you anymore. He stared at me, uncomprehending. Leah, please let me explain. After you left, I checked the security footage. You didn't push her. It was all her manipulating everything. It was her who leaked the letters. I've made her pay for it, I swear. Please just forgive me this once. Seeing my blank expression, he panicked. He pulled the 999 letters from his coat. On every single one in his handwriting was the word yes. Before he could speak, I snatched them from his hand, tore them to shreds, and threw them into the nearby lake. He cried out and dove into the water after the scattered pieces, but it was useless. Like our love, they were gone forever. He crawled out of the water, soaked and defeated, and knelt at my feet, clutching my dress. Leah, I was a coward, he sobbed, his body shaking. I was terrified of my feelings for you, terrified of what the world would say. I brought Sophia into our lives to numb myself, to try and convince myself I didn't love you. But every time I saw the disappointment in your eyes, it felt like a knife in my heart. When you left, when I saw you with him, my world ended. I can't live without you. Please come back to me. I'll die without you, please. People only learn to cherish things once they've lost them. I pushed his hands away and looked down into his lifeless eyes. You don't love me as much as you think you do, I said, my voice devoid of emotion. The part of my heart that loved you died the moment you chose to save Sophia. You can be unloving, but why were you untrusting? Why did you join others in humiliating me? You were the one who personally destroyed the last bit of familial affection I had for you. I spent years chasing you, Caleb. My sudden absence is just a disruption to your routine. You're not used to it. But that isn't love. You once told me that tears are only a weapon in the eyes of someone who loves you. To me now, you are a stranger. Your joy and your sorrow have nothing to do with me. You raised me, and for that I owed you a debt. But I paid that debt with my life the day you left me to die. We are even. Go home. Goodbye, Caleb. I hope I never see you again. I took Alistair's hand and walked away without looking back. I heard a guttural scream of pure agony, then the sickening thud of a body hitting a stone pillar. He woke up, but his mind was broken. They said some days he only remembered me before I turned 18. On other days he would repeat the words, I was wrong, thousands of times over and over. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. Some encounters are destined, but our fate had run its course.